And now the battle for the Senate begins. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends. Actually, some extremely good news. It is now official. It was decided late last night. The Republicans now have officially held on to the House of Representatives. They finally hit the magic 218 number, which is what you need to have a majority. So it is now official. There's still a few more races that they're trying to count votes on, but it is official. It is a clean sweep. The Republicans now, under Trump, have won the White House, have won back the Senate, and have now retained the House of Representatives. Yes, baby. They ran the table. It is an absolute clean sweep. Now, this leads me to the second and more important point. As I speak to you now, there is a huge election taking place, not in a state or not for the House, but who is going to be the successor to Mitch McConnell. And the globalists, the rhinos, and as I said on X last night, Mitch McConnell himself has now set a trap for Donald Trump. This is now what Mitch McConnell is trying to do. And this is what's so odd about everything that's taking place. Normally, when you pick someone to replace a longtime Senate leader, whether it be the Republican leader, as in McConnell's case, or the Democrat leader, you don't do it just a week after the election. Usually, it's done sometime near January. Why? Because you have new members that come in. You want to give people time to sort of campaign, make their case, pitch to the voters, and then pitched obviously to the senators themselves, who are going to be the only ones who ultimately vote. No. In a lightning move, Mitch McConnell, because everybody is now distracted, and he's trying to take advantage of this distraction. Will the Republicans retain the House? What will happen with Carrie Lake? Apparently she lost. It's now official. At least that's what Arizona is saying. Carrie Lake lost her seat to Gallego. But the point is, Trump now apparently is going to nominate Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State. He's now appointed Stephen Miller as his Deputy Chief of Staff. Tom Homan will be his border czar. He's now appointed Mike Waltz to be his national security advisor. So as everybody is now talking about and focused on the incoming cabinet and all of these picks that Trump is making, whether you like them, don't like them, agree with them, don't agree with them, Mitch McConnell, as always, and that's how these globalists and rhinos operate, is working in the shadows. And so what he's trying to do, and I'm trying to warn everybody, he is trying to sabotage Trump's agenda from the get-go, from the outset. And that's why he scheduled this vote very quickly, and this is the key part, in secret. So tomorrow, Senate Republicans, and only Senate Republicans, are going to vote on who should be the next Senate Republican leader, who will be Mitch the Squish's replacement. And there are now 3 candidates in the race. And this is where McConnell now is making his move. They want to sabotage and undermine Trump because, as the saying goes, personnel is policy. Personnel is what decides whether an agenda succeeds or doesn't succeed. And just so that all of you know, the Senate Republican leader, and in this case would be the Senate Majority Leader, has immense power and directly affecting Trump and the success or failure of his administration. It is the Senate Majority Leader, and that's why, by the way, McConnell had so much power for so long, that can decide ultimately whether a bill even makes it to the floor for a vote. If the Senate Majority Leader say, take building the wall. I'm just going to give that as an example. And it's part of a bill. If the Senate Majority Leader says no, it's not going to be passed. It's never going to make it to the floor for a vote. If Trump wants to extend his tax cuts, no. If he says no, then it's not going to be up for a vote. In other words, on issue after issue after issue, the Senate Majority Leader sets the tone, sets the direction, really sets the agenda. Now, usually when you have members of the same party in power, they work together. But not if you're a backstabbing rhino like Mitch McConnell. So, what he has now done is he has now urged his two acolytes, and these are both of them, they are huge McConnell loyalists. John Cornyn, senator from Texas, John Thune, senator from South Dakota. And he has now urged both of them. In fact, he's pushing both of them to run. They are now up to be voted on tomorrow. The third candidate is Senator Rick Scott from Florida. Now, the reason why McConnell has moved so quick and aggressively pushed forward both Cornyn and Thune, as I said, both of these have been his longtime lieutenants. Cornyn and Thune have been licking Mitch's shoes for years and years. They're his henchmen. They do his dirty work. He couldn't pick one over the other because, frankly, they were both extremely loyal to him. So he's now pushing both of those and essentially telling his colleagues, pick either Cornyn or pick either Thune. On the grounds, quote unquote, that they have the experience, quote unquote, to get things done. What he really means is they're part of the uniparty swamp. They have the quote unquote experience to undermine, undercut, block, and sabotage Trump and his agenda. And just very quickly, because I don't want to get into the weeds of these men, because frankly, I find neither of them very interesting, but you need to know where the perspectives they're coming from. John Cornyn, as I said, is a senator from Texas. He is one of the most liberal senators on the Republican side in the Senate. He is a rhino's rhino. He is for amnesty for illegals. He has never been a staunch or strong supporter of Trump. In fact, quite the opposite. He is, for example, a huge supporter of Mitch McConnell and has been one of his top lieutenants, top loyalists going back for years. So we're going to entrust the Senate Republican leadership, the Senate Majority Leader, to literally maybe the most rhino liberal member of the Senate. And I'm including Mitt Romney in this. Insane. Absolutely insane. And I'm telling you, Cornyn is an absolute lightweight. You want to talk about an airhead. You want to talk about somebody vacuous, an empty suit, nothing between his ears. Ay, ay, ay. The only trait this guy has is that nobody can brown nose like John Cornyn. So this is how he did it. He just kept licking Mitch McConnell's shoes, licking his boots, lick, 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 lick. And that's how he kept rising in leadership. Now McConnell wants to install him in this secret ballot, this secret vote, because we know what Cornyn's going to do. Cornyn is going to shaft Trump. You take it to the bank. The other candidate is John Thune. Now, to give him his due, he is smarter than Cornyn. There's no question. He's savvier than Cornyn. He's smarter than Cornyn. He's more Machiavellian than Cornyn. He has risen quicker than Cornyn. But just like Senator Cornyn, John Thune is an establishment hack. In fact, he was the one in 2016. Remember the famous Billy Bush tape, the Access Hollywood tape? It was Thune who issued a public statement saying Trump needs to step down. Mike Pence needs to be the candidate. Trump is now unacceptable. And for the last 8 years, Thune has been running a guerrilla campaign like Mitch McConnell against President Trump. Thune is the wrong man. He is a corrupt machine politician a la Mitch McConnell who will do the bidding of the Chamber of Commerce and the globalists. That leaves us with Rick Scott. Rick Scott, for all of his flaws, and I'm not saying he's perfect, but I'll tell you this, he is infinitely better than either Cornyn or Thune. Rick Scott is a Trump loyalist. Rick Scott is a conservative. Rick Scott is a former successful businessman who knows what it is to write a check and have employees on a payroll. Rick Scott has publicly pledged that he will do everything in his power to get all of Trump's appointments confirmed and to pass every single item in the Trump agenda. The swamp now wants to smother and bury Rick Scott. Kuhner country, we need to start working the phones, calling the RNC, calling Republican senators, and telling them, stop the rhinos. We must elect Scott as Senate Majority Leader before it's too late. 19 on the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, so just very quickly to set the table, and then I want to load up on the phones. 617-266-6868 is the number. You know, you look at South Dakota, which is where John Thune, he's a senator from South Dakota. You look at Cornyn, senator from Texas. Those are red states. And those states, in fact, in 2016, 2020, and 2024, 3 consecutive times, voted for Donald Trump. Texas did it 3 times in a row. South Dakota did it 3 times in a row. This election, they overwhelmingly went for Trump. Now, you would think that this would, the message would be delivered to these swamp creatures in Washington that they want their senators to reflect the will of the voters, the interests of the voters, and who the voters pick to be the next president of the United States. No, 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 no. That's not how Mitch McConnell and the rhinos work. As I said, they work in the shadows. They work in behind the secret veil. And so, tomorrow, they're going to be holding a closed-door session with a secret ballot. And that, to me, already, why does it have to be secret? Why is it always secret? McConnell, by the way, set this up. It doesn't have to be secret. I think we have a right to know which Republican senator decided to vote for which person to be the next Senate Majority Leader and succeed and replace Mitch the Squish McConnell. But no. So they can say one thing in public to us and then do something very different in private because they're cutting some kind of a deal either with Thune or with Cornyn. The whole process stinks. We're back to the swamp and the ways of the swamp. And the voters have clearly said that they want to change. They want to drain the swamp. They want to drain it from the CIA, from the FBI, from the deep state, from Congress, from the White House, from the bureaucracy, everywhere. And yet, what are these scumbag rhinos doing? Back to their old tricks. Now, just so that you understand, Cornyn right now is really lobbying for votes. He thinks he's closing in terms of catching John Thune. As the lay of the land is, according to media insiders and Washington insiders, Thune apparently is in the lead. Cornyn is second. Rick Scott is third. And to me, which I just find incredible. That's like the tail wagging the dog. So the MAGA conservative, the Trump loyalist, the one who says he's going to enact not just Trump's agenda, this is very important, all of Trump's recess appointments. Now, you need to hear this, my friends. The reason why Trump is asking for quick recess appointments, and Rick Scott says he will deliver these recess appointments, is that the way the Senate works is that they can delay and obstruct Trump's appointments for months, in some cases, I kid you not, for years. So he can't fill his cabinet. He can't put people in key positions. That's how they slowed and wore him down the first time. So Trump now came out and said, no, to hell with this. When the Senate's in recess, I want a Senate Majority Leader who's just going to fast track and get all of these appointments approved. If the Senate's not going to be in session, too bad. No advice and consent. We just get them in recess appointments and they're in. Kuhner is already backtracking from that. Kuhner already says he won't do it. Thune, we don't know what he's saying. So it's obvious. They are the stalking horse for Mitch McConnell. That's why McConnell has called this vote so insanely early, in dark, in shrouded secrecy, tomorrow, to try to catch MAGA, all of us off guard. We're still celebrating. We're still enjoying a sensational, spectacular victory. We want to talk about his picks to the cabinet and how his cabinet's starting to come together. And this is how they get their guy in. And once they get their guy in, that's when this guy can start undermining Trump and his agenda from within. So Rick Scott has to be the guy that becomes Senate Majority Leader. Elon Musk, to his credit, is warning MAGA, warning all Trump voters, ring the phones off the hook of every Republican senator and tell them you want Rick Scott to be Senate Majority Leader. You don't want to return to the uniparty swamp under Mitch McConnell. That the McConnell era is over. The Rhino era is over. The era of the establishment globalists is over. It wasn't just the Democrats that lost on November 5th. It was the globalists and the establishment that are part of the problem. Already, there are so many calls pouring into Capitol Hill in the Senate offices of these Republicans who are going to be voting tomorrow, Senate Republicans, that some of them, I kid you not, are now leaking to the media, always on anonymity. Notice they never have the guts to put their name to what they say. Saying, oh, we feel bullied. Oh, all these emails, all these voters going online and calling our offices and saying we need to support Rick Scott. We're not going to be bullied and intimidated into this. So let me get this straight. The voters weigh in on who they want to lead the Senate majority and help guide Trump's agenda and policies through Congress. And that's a form of bullying? Enough is enough. This is a battle for the heart and soul of the Senate Republicans, a battle for the heart and soul of whether we can get Trump's agenda through. Kuhner country, let's do this. Elect Rick Scott as Senate Majority Leader. 31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends. So, tomorrow, molto importante. The Senate Republicans are going to be meeting, to decide who their next leader is going to be. And it is now down to three candidates. It is Senator John Thune, Senator John Cornyn from Texas, and of course, Rick Scott of Florida. Apparently, as things stand right now, Rick Scott is in third place. If he loses on the first ballot, i.e. finishes third, whoever finishes third is knocked out. And then on the second ballot, it goes to between the top two. and then you have to get 27 votes. That's the majority that you need to be elected as the Senate Republican leader. So hopefully Rick Scott can get into second place and then pull off an upset in the second ballot. We shall see. Tucker Carlson is warning everybody, this is where the rhinos now make their stand to try to undermine and blow up Trump's presidency. Elon Musk is saying a lot is riding on this vote tomorrow. The rhinos and McConnell, pencil neck, is trying to sabotage Trump and blow up his presidency right before it even begins. So my question to you, A, do you care who will be the next Senate majority leader? And in this race between the neocon John Thune, the rhino John Cornyn, and the conservative Rick Scott, who do you think should be the next leader of the Republican Party in the Senate? Who should be the next Senate majority leader? Now, look, I like Josh Hawley. I like Ted Cruz. I like Rand Paul. There are many other names that, frankly, I would put ahead of these three. But they're not running. They don't want the job. These are the three that want the job and have thrown their hat in the ring. So my question to you, should Trump weigh in? Does he need to address the country and address Republicans and tell us who he wants to be the leader of the Republicans in the Senate? I think he should. I know why he's not doing it, because in case his candidates say Rick Scott doesn't win, he's going to have a very bad relationship with either Cornyn or Thune. So he wants to be neutral. He wants to be Switzerland and let Senate Republicans weigh in on their own. But I think he's got no choice. I don't trust Thune and I don't trust Cornyn. And I know for a fact they don't have the best interests of the country or the Trump agenda. Thune and Cornyn have been working against Trump for nearly 10 years now. 617-266-6868. Mark in New Hampshire. You're going to kick us off, Mark. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Yeah, thank you, man. Your first question, yes, we care. Actually, first, Jeff, thank God for you. Thank God for Kuhner country. We did it. We did it, man. So bless you. Thank you 1,000 times over. Yes, we do care. I wonder, what about Mike Lee? I have so much I want to say, Jeff. You had two questions. Mike Lee, or, do we care? The other question you had, what was the second question you wanted me to answer?
Well, I mean, should you think, should Trump publicly weigh in? Look, he's got so much on his plate. I mean, he's picking members of his cabinet, members of his staff. He's making calls to world leaders. I mean, Mark, apparently, just so that you know, and this is now coming out from the Trump team, on election night, he had not slept for 72 hours. Well, this was last week, but he stayed up for 3 consecutive days and nights. That's how hard, I'm telling you, that's how hard Trump worked to win. And so on election night, Dana White now has said this. He goes, we were looking at him and we go like, he hasn't slept in 3 nights, literally in 72 hours. And someone asked him, how is that possible? Like, Dana White's answer, quote, Trump's a freak. Quote unquote, he's a freak. So what I'm saying is, in a way, he's got to slow down. I'm worried about his health. Like, I know he's a notorious hard worker. He puts in 18, 20-hour days. But really, you're not sleeping for 3 days in a row. You keep, doing this, your body, you're hurting your body. So what I'm just saying is, he's got so much on his plate. I understand from his point of view, I really do, where he says, hey, look, man, I weigh in on this. It looks like Thune's got the votes, or Cornyn. I want Scott, but if I come out in favor of Scott and he doesn't win, you know how the media is going to play this up? That I'm already fighting with the Senate majority leader, the Senate Republican leader, and I haven't even been inaugurated yet. So Trump is like, look, I got to stay out of this. And, I've got to let my people have to, if they want Scott, my people are going to have to push for it and put him over the finish line. So I get Trump's point of view, but I don't know. Look, my concern is Thune is another McConnell. Cornyn is not just another McConnell. He's a dumber another McConnell. I mean, Thune is smart. I mean, he's cynical. He's Machiavellian. He's a snake. He's a neocon. He's an establishment Republican. He's a globalist. But, like McConnell's a smart man. Thune is a smart man. Cornyn, there's nothing between those ears. So I'm looking at that. I'm like, Cornyn would be a disaster. But we can't get Thune. We can't get Cornyn. I mean, then the swamp wins. We've got to get Rick Scott in there. Does Trump need to weigh in? What say you, Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I've never had a good feeling about Thornton either, so it just didn't feel like I could totally trust him. But I wonder if that second vote, once they get the top two, is that second vote going to be secret as well? Do
Yes.
we know?
It's all secret.
Well, that just really stinks. So,
that's McConnell. I mean, Mark, I'm sorry, but I mean, that's Mitch the Squid. That's McConnell. He doesn't want it open. Trump wanted it, to be fair, Trump said, well, just have it open. What are you guys so afraid of? And in fact, to show you how honest Trump is, he said, not only have the vote open, have the debate open. They do it in Britain. They do it in Canada. They, like in Parliament, they hammer it out. It's great. I'm telling you, it's great. One guy makes an argument for one person. The other one makes an argument for the other person. They go back and forth. No, because I'll tell you why, Mark. It's all now horse trading. That's why they want it in secret. And that's why Thune has the edge, or Cornyn. But Rick Scott, he's just there to do Trump's bidding. Thune is, what do you want? You want a bridge? What do you want? You want your wife appointed to something? Like, what do you want? What can I do for you? You want this? You got it. You want this? You got it. So that's why they want it in secret. And I'm telling you, they're going to come out and say, oh, I wanted Rick Scott. They didn't have the votes. But while he's voting for Thune or Cornyn behind the scenes. So that's why the whole thing it's shrouded in secrecy, Mark. The whole thing. That's why Elon and Tucker are saying, you got to blow up the phones, go online, email. You've got to contact every Republican senator and tell them, we want Rick Scott. We want to change the way business is done in the Senate. Business as usual is no longer acceptable. Mark, what say you?
Kuhner country, we got to do that today. We got to call in and we got to flood Congress. Jeff, the one thing I would ask is, can we get RKO, get the station? There's an 800 number. I can't remember what it is in Washington D.C., but there's one general one to get to all of the senators, and they can direct you to the right one. I'm in the car and I'm at the office, so I won't be able to get that number dug out today. But can we please, in Kuhner country, share that number over the airwaves several times throughout your show today, this morning? You
got it. Mark, I just told Sandy she's going to get that 1-800 number. I'm going to pump it out all morning. And any Republican senator, it's just call them. Seriously, just call them. Look, I think Rick Scott should win this running away. And in all honesty, I'm with Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna on this. John Thune and Cornyn should step aside. They should step aside. If you ask the voters of South Dakota who do they want to be Senate Majority Leader, it would be Rick Scott. Not because they know the guy or love the guy or, like me, he's balding. It's not because they find a bald guy sexy. It's just, no, because it's obvious. Scott is the guy. In fact, I'll play you a cut coming back on the other side. Rick Scott says, look, Trump wants recess appointments. He's going to get it. Every person that Trump wants, I'm going to get in. Every aspect of his agenda, I will put on the floor. We're going to pass this. We're going to make it into law. We're going to codify it. So everybody, you get Rick Scott, you get Trump's MAGA agenda. You get John Thune or Cornyn, and you've got Mitch McConnell. Okay, the number is 202-224-3121. This is the hotline for the Senate Republicans. 202-224-3121. That's the Senate hotline. That's not the Senate. Oh, okay. That's the Capitol Hill operator. And any number you want. 1-7-266-6868 is the number. The devil never sleeps. It's just incredible. I mean, it was 1 week ago there was the election. 1 week. And already now these rhinos are plotting. I mean, it's just 1 week, man. 1 week. Anyway, really good text. This is from 603. Jeff, this latest tactic by old turkey neck, i.e. Mitch the Squish McConnell, raises the age-old question with Republicans like this. Who needs Democrats? I agree. I completely agree. And look, the fact that they need a secret ballot, the fact that this all has to be done in a closed session, it tells you everything you need to know. I mean, it's obvious what's going on. So anyway, hopefully Rick Scott can make it. 617-266-6868. Very quickly, I want to go to the phone lines. Here is Rick Scott on Fox News saying he's optimistic, he's hopeful, and he says, really, I'm only running for one reason and one reason alone. Roll cut 13, Mike.
I'm very optimistic. I believe I'm going to win. Thune and Cornyn are friends. Here's what I bring to the table. I clearly believe in the Trump agenda, number one. I'm a business guy that had success doing exactly what we need to do in the Senate. We need to have a plan. We need to work a plan. We need to have a team. We need to measure ourselves. If we want to get all the nominees done, we've got to figure out a plan to get it done. If we want to get a balanced budget, we got to start today to get a balanced budget. If we want to get the border secure, if we want to get whatever policies we have to get through Congress, we have to have a plan, just like what you do in business. I ran a company with 285,000 employees. We had a written plan for everything to get it done. My colleagues have told me they want change. They want to be treated as equal. They want to be part of a team. They want to have an agenda. They want to have a great relationship with the House. They know I have a great relationship with Speaker Mike Johnson. So I'm very optimistic that I'm going to win because I'm representing Trump's agenda and what my colleagues want.
I see, that's your problem, Rick. You're representing Trump's agenda and the voters. No, they're representing the lobbyists, the special interests, the big money changers, the globalists. You see, that's the difference. So that's what Thune and Cornyn and Mitch McConnell and the rhinos and the establishment are all about. Follow the money. And that's why they have a hell of a lot more favors to sell than you do, my friend. And so the only way we're going to get Rick Scott in as Senate Majority Leader is by pure people power. And that's working the phones, doing emails, doing everything we can, and let them know that look, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity now for the Republicans. They have a very small window to get Trump's agenda through. Because I'm telling you, the Democrats are going to launch all-out resistance, obviously. The media they're already attacking Trump 24/7. So the media is against him. The entire deep state's against him. The bureaucracy's against him. Hollywood's against him. The Democrats are against him. The swamp is against him. So you've got this window to implement now fundamental transformational change. We can really secure the border. We can really deport millions and millions and millions of criminal illegal aliens. We could change, really, the entire destiny of our country. Make us completely energy independent once and for all. End inflation. Restore the American dream. End these disastrous free trade deals. Contain China once and for all. Stop World War III, whether it be in Russia or in Iran. I mean, we could really dismantle the deep state, restore our constitutional republic, restore the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights. I mean, as an election integrity. Really now reimpose fair, honest elections in the United States. So the Kerry Lakes of the world don't get another election stolen from them. But, you know, you've got a short window. Why do you think McConnell scheduled the vote this early, this quick, and in secret, like a lightning strike? Because he wants to blow the whole thing up. Because McConnell doesn't want to secure the border. McConnell doesn't want a successful deportation policy. Because McConnell loves these bad, disastrous free trade deals. You think he wants tariffs on China? McConnell's family is now, to the tune of $100 million doing business with China. You think he wants the deep state to be gutted and completely reformed and revamped? No, he's a creature of the deep state. So this is why he wants to put his guy in, whether it be Thune or McConnell. And notice he's very smart. 3 people are running. 2 out of the 3 are his. And they're offering Republican senators anything they want. Anything. Because he wants it to be 1 and 2 after tomorrow. Remember, who finishes third, tomorrow's vote is out. So, heads I win, tails you lose. Then at this point, if it's Thune or Cornyn, he doesn't care. McConnell's now done his job. Now, what is disappointing me is what I've read, what I've seen, what I've heard. I'd like it to be 1,000% confirmed, but it appears Josh Hawley, to my shock and horror, I love Josh Hawley. Hawley now says he's not supporting Rick Scott. And I'd like to know why. And I want to know in particular, what did Thune or Cornyn offer you? Because that's their ace in the hole. They're corrupt and they can offer people anything under the sun. Rick Scott is just running as a Trump supporter, an America First conservative. He's not offering anything except the president's agenda. 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Diane in Maine. Thanks for holding, Diane, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I just tried that number, and both times I was very distinctly asking for Senator Susan Collins, and both times they directed me to Elizabeth Warren. So just so your listeners know, I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but I was very clear in the way that I asked. So people are going to use that number. There may have to be a way to circumvent any kind of misdirection.
Well, Diane, really, I mean, look, Capitol Hill, they hold bankers' hours. So, you know, they're not like you or me or, you know, they don't know what a full day's work is, you know. So really, they're only rolling by about 9 o'clock. So if you really want to target Congress, do it between 9 and 5. If you do anything before 9, you know, or after 5, you know, they're not up before, you know, 7:30, 8 o'clock. And after 5, they're all hitting the Capitol Grill Steakhouse, or, you know, they're all hitting the cafes and the restaurants. Seriously. And applauding how to undermine Trump and MAGA, because they can't stand us. So what you got to do, Diane, is wait till about 9 o'clock, 9-ish, and then just start making that call over and over and over and over. But I like the idea of putting pressure on Susan Collins. I think that's a great suggestion, Diane. Diane, I take it you're Rick Scott on this? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think he's going to win?
I don't trust them. I do not trust them.
You know, if it was an open process with an open vote, Scott would win because they fear us, the voters. But the fact that it's done in secret, behind closed doors in a closed session, now I'm a little worried, Diane. Diane, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. So again, the number, this is the Capitol Hill switch line. So it's just you call and ask for any Republicans. Remember, don't bother with the Democrats. Only the Republican senators are voting. They're the only ones that will decide who their next leader will be, and the next leader will be the next majority leader. So it's 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. And I'm going to be giving the number out periodically throughout the show. 617-266-6868. Vince, he's still in Germany. Vince in Deutschland. Thanks for holding, Vince, and welcome. Wie geht's, my friend?
Good morning, Jeff.
Wie geht's?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wie geht's Ihnen? Gut. Und du?
Very, very good, Vince. Very, very good since last Tuesday. Vince, can you do me a favor? Can you get off speaker because we have a hard time hearing you, my friend, and I want to hear you loud and clear.
All righty. How's that, my friend?
Vince, like you're right beside me. All right, go ahead, my friend.
Okay, so, the thing that's most telling is that list that leaked, the whip list that leaked through Benny Johnson, the Benny Johnson podcast.
Yes.
And Steve Bannon had him on yesterday. I guess he used to work up at Capitol Hill for 15 years, so he has his sources. And you look down that list, Rick Scott had 11 people backing him. But the people that weren't backing him, you said it, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Marsha Blackburn, people that we consider MAGA or in the MAGA camp now, And, this wouldn't even be an issue if these senators that we supposedly trust would back Rick Scott. And, like I said, Josh Hawley, he's probably going to make a run in 28. So that's why he's backing John Cornyn, who is I would rather have a mannequin in that position than John Cornyn. That guy is absolutely horrible. And, people often ask, how do these people remain in Congress and in the Senate? Well, first off, they rely on your short memory. Second off, they rely on the corrupt state GOP to keep them in place because, let's face it, Ken Paxton, they try to put him in jail as the attorney general because he just wanted to do his job. It goes to show you that the Bush apparatus runs Texas and John Cornyn is their man. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're dead on.
I don't think Rick Scott's going to win. No way, because exactly. He's going to push the Trump agenda. And these people play long ball. They know Trump has one more term, and they're just going to run the clock out on him. And I would say this. If Donald Trump wants to make stuff happen, he's going to have to rely on his DOJ to do it. Because if you dig into these people's business dealings like Mitch McConnell, there is criminal activity there. And he's just going to have to prosecute him right out of the Senate. That's what's going to have to happen. It is time to use the lawfare. They used it on us. Why can't we use it on them?
Vince, I'm just curious. Hawley surprised me, but I agree with you. I think he's got bigger ambitions. 2028. Cornyn's probably promising him a lot of support, a big war chest. How do you explain Ted Cruz and Marsha Blackburn? I'm just curious. What's your theory?
Well, Ted Cruz, I would say it's the Texas Republican Party. Marsha Blackburn, there's no telling, man. You know what I mean? It's like they offer them things. They have things that they want to push. These people are always looking at the next election. All right, John Thune just got elected in 2022, I believe. So he's got a ways to go. And like I said, they rely on our short memories. It's like this year, next year. Oh, I forgot all about it. Yeah, I'll vote for him. But it really comes down to those state parties because no one's going to be able to primary these guys unless they have the backing of the parties in the state.
Yeah.
Or at least half of them. You know what I mean?
No, Vince, you're dead on. Dead on. Absolutely dead on. Vince, outstanding call. Really, truly outstanding call. Vince, thank you very much. What did I tell you? Best audience in the business, baby. Suzanne in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Suzanne, and welcome.
Jeff, who should we call for here? Because I don't want to call Elizabeth Warren, but I think that McConnell is a traitor to us, to Trump. I mean, you know, we've worked so hard to get him back. Why don't they want to help us change everything? We need the change.
Well, you know, Suzanne, let me tell you, because, look, you're right. If you live in Massachusetts, or frankly, New Hampshire, same thing, it's 2 Democrat senators. So you don't call your senator. You can call any senator. Look, and I'll tell you and I'll tell you why. For example, it's pretty obvious. I'm not begrudging him. I'm not. I like Josh Hawley a lot. He's very smart, very articulate. He's great at these committee hearings. I could see him eventually running for president one day. There's no question. Okay, there's no question. So maybe he's thinking 2028, right? Trump is going to be a one-termer, and he thinks, well, I can be J.D. Vance. I'm just telling you from his point of view. Well, Suzanne, just as a suggestion, call up Josh Hawley. You call up the switchboard, and you say, I want to talk to Josh Hawley, or whatever, his people, and say, I'm very disappointed that Josh Hawley's not supporting Rick Scott. And if he decides to run for president, I'm going to remember that. And I'm not going to vote for him. Like, what I'm saying is, you can call anybody and urge them who to vote for. And just say, as a Republican, as a Trump supporter, here's what I want you to do. That's what Elon is urging all of his supporters. And it is having an effect. They are bombarding Capitol Hill. They're emailing Capitol Hill. To the point, I mean, I'm telling you, these rhinos are complaining to the Washington Post and to the New York Times, saying, we're feeling bullied. Suzanne, we can't handle these calls. So so the voters want to have a say in who should be the Senate Majority Leader? That tells you everything you need to know. And you're feeling bullied? Come on. Pathetic. So, Suzanne, you call anybody you want to call. Now, look, I would call Ted Cruz. I'm not forgiving Ted Cruz. I think he should vote for Rick Scott. But I do get, I think Vince is right. Well, that's just Texas. Cornyn is from Texas. He feels he's got to support the Texas Republican Party, the state GOP. He probably owes them because he was in a dogfight for his reelection just now. So that's what I mean. They're always cutting deals left, right, and center, and that leaves you compromised. But look, Marsha Blackburn, that I don't get. Hawley, that I don't get. I mean, there are many of them. What's that senator up in North Dakota? I'm getting a brain freeze. But I mean, he's from one of the most conservative states. And he just came out against Scott, saying he's going to go with John Thune. So I'm thinking, well, what did Thune promise you? So I just think, Suzanne, you call any senator you want. Call multiple senators. And just, trust me, they'll register. They're like, hey, they'll tell their bosses. Even if you just leave a voicemail. It's running 100-1 for Rick Scott. You sure you really want to do this? Now, their way out, and that's what I find so sleazy and frankly disgusting, is it's in secret. So you really don't know who voted for who. And you can ask them, but even then, they lie. Many of them, I'm just being honest with you. They'll say, oh, yeah, I voted for Rick. No, they voted for Cornyn and they voted for Thune. So that's why, look, here's one thing we should do right away. And Rick Scott has pledged to do this. No more votes in secret. Nothing outside of national security, where there's obviously classified information. You don't want to just start giving away our intelligence to the world. Outside of national security, nothing should be in secret. Votes shouldn't be in secret. Deliberations shouldn't be in secret. Debates shouldn't be in secret. And in fact, Suzanne, this is the poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Outside of national security. Okay, this is what I want to ask all of you, Kuhner Country, and you, Suzanne. Outside of national security, in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, should all votes, all deliberations, all debates be done in public? A, yes. B, no. I am for full transparency. They work for us. We don't work for them. And that's why I am an A on this all the way. And especially if you're going to elect the House Speaker, or in this case, the next Senate Majority Leader. I don't want it in secret. That's McConnell. He came up with that. I want it in the open, public, transparent. I want to see who voted for who and why. And if that was the case, Scott would win on the first ballot in a landslide because they fear our wrath. But again, that's me. A, yes. B, no. Should this remain in secret, or a lot of it in secret or behind closed doors, or they call them closed door sessions? I want to hear from you, Kuhner Country. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER, or if you prefer on X, my handle there at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in National ER. Suzanne, final word to you.
Jeff, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to tell all my friends to do that. But also, too, is it because McConnell wants to keep the finger on the pulse when he's gone?
Yes.
So he can, yes.
Definitely.
And so he's just a Tory. You know, when you think back to our founding, you know, there were Tories and there were patriots. He's not a patriot. He's a Tory.
Oh, no, he'd be with King George III all the way. All the way. No, Thune or Cornyn are an extension of McConnell. This is the rhinos trying to retain their grip on power. That's what you're right. That's McConnell keeping his finger on the pulse of power. Just using Thune or Cornyn now to do it. Suzanne, thank you very much for that call. Very quick, if you want to know the number again for that switchboard on Capitol Hill, 202-224-3121. Ring that phone right off the hook, baby. 20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Revenge of the Rhinos. I mean, you can't make this up. So that's exactly now what is taking place. Tomorrow is going to be the vote, the first ballot, to choose the next Senate Republican leader, who will also be the Senate Majority Leader. And there are only 3 candidates in the race. I know many of you are texting, Jeff, I like Senator Mike Lee. I like Senator Rand Paul. I like Senator Josh Hawley. I'm like, I like them too, but they're not running. So it's 3 that are running. It's all, you don't go to war with the army you wish you have. You go to war with the army you have. And so these are the 3 that have decided to throw their hat in the ring. It is Senator John Thune, who is now the presumptive frontrunner. He clearly a disciple of Mitch McConnell, has been his right-hand man for forever, to tell you the truth. A neocon, a warmonger, very pro-Ukraine, very anti-Trump, has been for a long time. Cornyn, who is also extremely pro-Ukraine, also anti-Trump. And again, I'm not trying to be insulting. He's not the sharpest tool in the tool shed. He's just not that bright. So, by the way, very much pro-gun control. Just to show you the kind of guy Cornyn is. When Trump won in 2016 and then was trying to get his wall built, Cornyn publicly came out and said that even though the voters voted for a wall, I swear to you, they don't really want a wall. That people like him, senators like him, know the issue of the border better than the voters do. And so according to Cornyn, he said, no, they may have voted for a wall, they may want a wall, but you don't need a wall. We know what's best. So this is the kind of guy Cornyn is. He is bought and paid for by the Chamber of Commerce. When I say that big business and the globalists own him, they own him like a $10 streetwalker. And he's another one, a real brown-noser who has been beside McConnell now, I don't know how many years. So these are the two that, and I got to say this, McConnell played this very smart. He did it very quick. He did it as quick as possible when people were not paying attention, in secret. It's going to be a closed session ballot. The vote's going to be behind closed doors. And he got his two people to run. So all he's got to do now is knock Rick Scott off tomorrow. Who finishes third is taken out of the race. And then it's either Cornyn or Thune. Either way, McConnell wins. So these are the two people that he wants to be his successor. Basically, they're his clones. Thune is smarter, which is why I think he's got more votes than Cornyn. And it looks to me like he's out-promising and out-maneuvering Cornyn, but we shall see. Rick Scott is the Trump loyalist. And right now, he's got 11 votes. You need 27 to get a majority to be the Senate Republican leader. Jerry on the Cape. Thanks for holding, Jerry, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
Comrade, how are you?
I haven't spoken to you since the election. I'm thrilled, but I'm worried because I'm concerned about some of the people that are being bandied about. I like all the picks he's made so far for his cabinet, but I'm nervous about Secretary of State. Marco Rubio is a swamp creature. There's no way he should be anywhere near that. Kristi Noem, I think, Department of the Interior, but not the Department of Homeland Security. That needs to be dismantled. It really does. It needs to be dismantled. I mean, we can still have Customs and Border Patrol and ICE and INS and all of that, but there's no need. The Department of Homeland Security should never have been contracted in the beginning and created. George W. Bush had Marcus Wolf and Evgeny Primakov put that together. They paid them millions of dollars to put that program together for the United States. Two communists. But, Jeff, beyond that, also there was another pick that he was thinking of making. Oh, Mike Rogers, the congressman from Alabama.
Yes. Yeah, the one who almost assaulted Matt Gaetz on the floor over the vote for the speaker. Remember he had to restrain him?
Yeah, he was good because he was standing up for Kevin McCarthy and he was threatening people beyond Gaetz. He threatened a bunch of congressmen. He told them that if they didn't vote for McCarthy, he was going to come for them. I mean, this guy's a nut. President Trump has to be careful who he surrounds himself with. I'm really worried about that. It'd be like internal sabotage again. Like the first term, everybody sabotaged just about everything he did. Jeff, that's what's got me really concerned right now.
Jerry, look, I agree with you on Homeland Security. That department was created under George W. Bush, along with the Patriot Act. It needs to completely go. We don't need it. At best, it's the slum of Washington, D.C. It's got anybody that needs to be kicked upstairs or given a job, they throw into Homeland Security. At best. At worst, it's become part of the deep state. So I completely agree with you, Jerry. Jerry, I want to ask you about Marco Rubio, because that is the one pick that I saw yesterday that I'm like, my wife likes the pick. I am very ambivalent about the pick. On the one hand, he did campaign very hard for Trump. I got to give Rubio his due. And he's a hawk when it comes to China. He's been sounding better on NATO and Ukraine over the last couple of months. But I know his position on Ukraine before. He's a neoconservative. And I know him with the Gang of Eight. He wanted amnesty. So I see him as a swamp creature. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. Jerry, I want to continue this. Can you hang on? I'm up against a break. Let's throw that log. What do you think of Rubio as Secretary of State? Yo, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my news feed is blowing up, so it's pretty much official now. Jerry touched on it just before we went to break. Kristi Noem, South Dakota governor, big Trump supporter and ally, is now going to be given Department of Homeland Security secretary. So it looks like she will now be named the Secretary of Homeland Security. Marco Rubio now, it appears, this is what all the papers are reporting, will be named Secretary of State. What do you think of these two appointments? Like, no like? Let's go back to Jerry on Cape Cod. Jerry, to be fair to Rubio, and this is, for example, Grace likes the pick. My wife likes the pick. She says he's very articulate, very telegenic. He was a really good surrogate for Trump during the campaign. He's very knowledgeable on foreign affairs. She thinks that he would make a very good Secretary of State. What do you say to the argument, Jerry, that Rubio went out of his way to back Trump on some issues like China? He's completely on the president's wavelength, and that in the end, you need someone like Rubio who can run the State Department and really be an ambassador for America around the world. What say you, Jerry?
Jeff, I told you before, he's a swamp creature. He was in with McCain and Lindsey Graham back in 2008, 2009. I saw the pictures of him in the Ukraine. I saw the pictures of him in the Middle East, the people he was cavorting with. You can't be a politician and cavort with gangsters and terrorists, okay? That's just the reality of it. You kill gangsters and terrorists. You don't cavort with them. You kill them. But here he was back, the pictures don't lie.
Well, I mean,
right
Jerry,
wrong,
tell me if you agree or disagree. I wanted Grinnell. I heard that there was a short list. It was between Rubio and Rick Grinnell. And I said, go with Grinnell. Grinnell is America first all the way. He's not a neoconservative. He's not a globalist. He was against the war in Ukraine from the beginning, unlike Rubio, who is very much a war hawk, a military interventionist, big supporter of Zelensky. At least he was until the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. But I said, with Grinnell, you got someone who philosophically is 1,000% on the Trump team and on the America First agenda. What say you, Jerry?
If I agree with you wholeheartedly about Rick Grinnell, and beyond that too, the State Department is a rat's nest that needs to be cleaned out too. They're having crying sessions right now. It was reported. Anthony Blinken sat down with the staff and sent out this big email about people's feelings and wanting to know how they felt after the election. Give me a break.
Comrade Jerry, as always, thank you very much for that call. Okay, now, just very quickly, quick reset. John Thune did an interview, I believe it was on CNBC. Please don't quote me on where he did the interview, but I believe it was either CNBC or Bloomberg. Anyway, basically what he said was he fired a warning shot to Trump, saying that, quote unquote, if Trump knows what's good for him, he will not directly interfere in the race to replace and succeed Mitch McConnell. Now, in other words, like the Senate he's talking about the Senate has its independence and we believe in separation of powers. And you start getting involved with this, it's going to lead to a backlash and create a lot of bad blood. And, the president is not going to tell us who should be the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. Look, to be honest, I think Thune is a thug, a political thug. I think he's petrified that Trump is going to weigh in, back Rick Scott, and by backing Rick Scott, he could take away the majority leadership from Thune. And I don't like the fact that he's publicly threatening Trump. If he's publicly threatening Trump now, 1 week after Trump won, how the hell is this guy going to behave in 6 months or a year? So, to me, I look at Thune or Cornyn, and I see Mitch McConnell 2.0, nothing but problems. Rick Scott, I see a very successful Senate and a real MAGA leadership running the Senate Republicans and being Senate Majority Leader. But that's me. 617-266-6868. Okay, Rubio is going to be tapped as Secretary of State. Do you like it? Kristi Noem, Homeland Security. Do you like it? What do you think of Trump's picks so far? Phil in Missouri. Thanks for holding, Phil, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
This vote against Rick Scott, it's a vote against Trump. It's a vote against MAGA. It's a vote against, all his supporters. It was just a week ago that the taxpayers and all the new people that Trump brought into the party gave him this mandate to carry out the MAGA agenda. And, these rhinos, without Trump, you wouldn't have Ohio, West Virginia, Montana, Pennsylvania. There is no majority without Trump. And this is how they repay us back. It's starting all over again, and I understand that the fight didn't end on Election Day, and it kind of just begun. So I would encourage everybody, Jeff, give that number out, call your friends, tell them to call. It's an election all over again. It is, and we have to stay on top of this to make sure that Trump gets what he needs.
I agree with you, not 100, 1,000%. But I do want to ask you this, because you're from Missouri. Can you explain Josh Hawley? Now, I don't want to taint anyone's reputation, but William messaged me on Messenger, and he's quite good. Okay, William is a big listener of the show, and his stuff is usually very good. He says the rumor in D.C. is that one of the two candidates, I don't know who Hawley's backing, it's either Thune or Cornyn, but it's not Rick Scott. They shoveled a lot of money to help Hawley win his election. Something like $600,000 or whatever. So that in a sense, politically, he owes McConnell or whatever it is, Thune or Cornyn or whoever. So, and that explains why he's not backing Rick Scott. Have you heard, what's the word on the street in Missouri, Phil?
Everybody loves Josh Hawley. And honestly, I'm a little blindsided by this. I didn't know that he was this deep in debt, I guess, to McConnell and the rhinos. And I kind of feel like he's selling out a little bit in order to make the jump nationally, I guess, to be, a viable presidential candidate. But I know one thing about Missouri, that Kansas City, St. Louis, and Jefferson City and Springfield are where all the rhinos are. The rest of Missouri is deep red. Deep red. I can tell you that.
Interesting. Phil, as always, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Yes, Jeff. If I was voting, it would be D. None of the above, and I'll tell you why. And Jerry from the Cape, I love the caller. Great caller. My favorite caller. Listen, he's absolutely right about Marco Rubio. AI PAC money. Okay, this guy's no good. He get a 75 for a voting record. He's not America first. Okay, it's as simple as that. Now, John Cornyn. Okay, he's got a 63 for a voting record. Okay, and he's tied to the Ukraine money laundering list. Okay, he's on it, so he's no good. All right, Thune has got a 60. Okay, these guys got F. Jeff, F. Voting records. It's unbelievable. These guys are not leaders, okay? And then when you look at Rick Scott, he's got a 70. I've talked about this. He's got AI PAC money, and he's on the Ukraine money laundering list. He's tied to the list with the Bushes, the Cheneys, the McCains. These are McCain-Bush Republicans. They're not America first. We got to stay away from this.
Well, Dan, I hear where you're coming from, but the McCain family, the Bushes, the Cheneys, they don't want Rick Scott. So I understand you're saying Rick Scott has problems. Yes, I agree with you. He's not my number one pick, far from it. But if you say, well, Jeff, none of the three. Well, none of the three means you're going to get John Thune. Okay, or God help us, Cornyn, who I think is maybe even worse. I mean, Thune is bad, but Cornyn, Dan, just listen to this guy talk. He's another Kamala Harris. I mean, you're like, whoa. I mean, where were you when God was handing out brains? So what I'm saying, Dan, is, look, Rick Scott at least has made a deal with Trump. He campaigned for Trump. He has said he's going to do everything in his power to implement Trump's agenda. To me, you never let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Now, if I, had my way, there are 10 other senators that are real America First senators I would put ahead of Rick Scott. But Rick Scott is a lot better than John Thune and a hell of a lot better than Cornyn. And a none of the above, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You go none of the above tomorrow, John Thune is winning on the first ballot. And then we're up a creek without a paddle. So, I mean, Dan, sometimes in life, it's politics is the art of the possible. And Rick Scott for us is the only game in town. But thank you for that call, Dan. I appreciate it. 617. Just my opinion. You may agree, disagree. 617-266-6868. Don't touch that dial. 50 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, many of you are texting the Kuhner Man. You can text us, by the way, 70470, saying, Jeff, can you please give out that number on Capitol Hill? It is the switchboard number, and you can then reach any Republican senator you want. Any. And it doesn't matter. Jeff, well, I'm calling from New Hampshire. I'm just going to make an example. Or Massachusetts or California. We have a lot of listeners in California. Well, we don't have Republican senators. It doesn't matter. Believe me, you're going to be voting in 2026. You're going to be voting in 2028. Many of these senators have national ambitions. So they're going to want to hear what Republicans have to say. Whichever senator you want to call, you just call 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. You call that number, ask for any Senate office you want. And often they're not open at least until 9, but leave a voicemail. Let them know that you want Rick Scott to be the next Senate Majority Leader. And really, look, I get it. Many of you are texting the Kuhner Man, and I hear you. Look, I'm not saying Rick Scott is perfect. Far from it. I know there's baggage with him. I get it. But look, he's good enough for Tucker Carlson. He's good enough for Elon Musk. And the MAGA conservatives, frankly, in the House and in the Senate, are saying of the three, it's no contest. He's the only one who is committed, publicly pledged and committed, to get Trump's appointments, even through recess appointments, which means now you're not going to be able to block his people for months and months, if not years, and that he's going to get every aspect of Trump's agenda through the Senate and hopefully with the House and get into law. You're going to get a John Thune or Cornyn. You're going to get Mitch McConnell all over again. There's just no question. And it's going to be constant hijacking of Trump's agenda, infighting, sabotage, backstabbing. It's going to be like it was in the first term. So, you go, again, I keep saying this, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you wish you have. Now, if other people threw their hat in the ring, it would be a different story, no question. But there's only 3 possible choices. Now, some of you are texting me saying, well, then don't vote for any of them. Jeff, I don't want anything to do with this. Okay, but just understand, fine, it's a reasonable position. But what that means is you're going to get John Thune because he's the front runner, and the only way we can stop him is if we can get Rick Scott in there. So remember, you're going to get John Thune. And if you get John Thune, let me tell you what you're getting. You're getting a neoconservative. You're getting a globalist. You're getting an acolyte, a follower of Mitch McConnell. You're going to get someone who publicly called for Donald Trump to step down in 2016 after the Access Hollywood tape and said, we need to have Mike Pence be the presidential candidate against Hillary Clinton. You're talking about a man who behind the scenes, along with Mitch McConnell, did everything in his power to get Trump impeached and did everything in his power to try to prevent Trump from coming back to power. Now, you can say whatever you want about Rick Scott. He's not that. So what I'm just saying is it's three people in the race. Two I know are going to knife Trump all day, all night. Rick Scott, we can do business with. And honestly, I just think he's better than the other two. Just leave aside, yes, he's a Trump loyalist, but just beyond that, he's smarter, he's more capable, he's got actual private sector experience. The guy's actually cut checks and hired people. Again, he wouldn't even be my top 10 in terms of people I want in the Senate or who I want to be Senate Majority Leader. I'm just telling you, again, it's a race. Again, it's the art of the possible. It's not a dream candidate. It's not, someone, my perfect person. It's here are the people that are willing to do the job. It's A, B, and C. I'm going with Rick Scott. Again, that's me. 617-266-6868 is the number. Very quickly, this is from Eric, who is very smart, obviously. And always gives me great information. Well, this is what Eric said to me on Messenger, about 10 minutes ago. Jeff, I don't think you'll see Rick Scott win for the one reason they don't want term limits. And that is part of Trump's agenda. Bingo. Bingo. Rick Scott supports term limits. Trump supports term limits. John Thune and Cornyn and McConnell, obviously, the guy's been there forever. He's been there longer than I've been alive. And I'm a 55-year-old man. I'm a middle-aged man. And he's been there longer than I've been alive. So, no, Cornyn doesn't want term limits. McConnell doesn't want term limits. And Thune certainly doesn't want term limits because he wants to be like McConnell. Thune wants to be there until he's, 90 years old. So Scott has said we've got to have term limits. Trump says he wants term limits. For that reason alone, the uniparty swamp wants to bury Rick Scott. Frank in Malden. Thanks for holding, Frank, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Frank.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead, my friend.
Certainly, this is very disappointing with the people that have publicly stated they're not going to support Rick Scott. And the other thing is, of course, the secret ballot baloney is just terrible. It appears that in addition to melting the phones in Washington, if there's something we could do to try to get these senators to reveal who they're supporting, or at least to get the ones that are going to support Rick Scott to reveal that they are. And I think it would take one brave senator to stand up and say, I will be supporting Rick Scott. And the only brave senator I can think of at the moment is Marco Rubio. If he's destined to become Secretary of State, then I'm almost feeling, what does he have to lose if he publicly states his support for Rick Scott and urges all of the other senators who will be supporting Rick Scott to state it publicly. And what will that do? Well, maybe it'll give us an idea of how many are really supporting Rick Scott and how many are not. I don't know. What do you think?
Frank, I like it. No, I like it. I like it a lot. And look, number one, I think it is going to be leaked. You don't want to depend on leaks, I understand. But I think it's going to come out. It's already been leaked once. Rick Scott has only 11 senators. 11. And, people that you think would be voting for him, Hawley, Cruz, Marsha Blackburn, they're apparently on this secret list. They're not backing Scott. So this is what I think, what we need to say, no matter what. When the race is over, because this is the only way you can enforce this, we're going to demand and ask every senator, who did you vote for? And when they say, well, it was a secret ballot. No, I'm sorry. We don't find that acceptable. That's the old way. We want the new way of doing politics. No, that's the swamp way. We're here to drain the swamp. You never should have had a closed door session, ever. This wasn't national security. This wasn't highly classified intelligence. You know, we're not talking about American spies deep in communist China or deep in Iran, and they've given us, you know, the inside information on Iran's nuclear weapons program. I'm not going to put people's lives in jeopardy. I get that. Some things have to be done behind closed doors. I get it. But we're not talking that. We're just talking about very simply who's going to be the next Republican leader in the Senate. Which, I don't know, it's just, we have a right to weigh in. We're the voters, for God's sake. So tell them, no, that's not good enough. I don't care. McConnell was the one who made it a secret ballot. There's no rule saying it has to be a secret ballot. That was a condition imposed by McConnell. That's the way the rhinos work. Again, remember, they always work in secrecy, always in the shadows. Always. That's their modus operandi. That's their MO. So, no, who did you vote for? And then we want to see their public proclamations versus the actual vote count. And Frank, I will bet you the best steak at the best steakhouse of your choice, that if we do that, it's going to be, well, Rick Scott should be the Senate Majority Leader. Almost everybody voted for the guy. But it's going to end up either being Thune or Cornyn. In other words, they're going to tell us publicly one thing, but they're going to vote the exact opposite in secret. Because they were promised something. Because that's how the swamp works. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. Final word to you, Frank.
Yeah, I agree. It's really now being revealed what the power of the swamp is. And it is going to be a monumental effort to try and overcome it. But right now, this is the best chance we have, and we all have to do our best to support the people that are trying to make MAGA successful.
Amen. Amen. Look, you're right. That's all we can do. We have to just do our best and, you know, keep going. What can you do? Frank, thank you very much. And you're absolutely dead on. This is the swamp. This is how they operate. And they're not going to give up power. Look at them. They just, you know, like, seriously, McConnell has had a very long, very lucrative, very successful career. And I don't mean success as in good for the country. I mean success as in for himself and his family. Now, we wanted him out as Senate Majority Leader. He's one of the most unpopular politicians in the entire country. The SOB wouldn't step down before the election. Remember that? He said, no, after the election. Now, look at this. He's trying to orchestrate his own successor to screw Trump. Now, ask yourself this. You're now pushing 90 years old. You're getting brain freezes in public. Like it's happened multiple times. He's talking, and he just starts, they're all like, Mitch. And they're shaking him. And he's just staring into deep outer space. And they're like, oh my God, you put your hands in front of his eyes. There's nothing there. Mitch. Okay? You're worth north of $100 million through your wife's family business and connections to communist China. You have lined your pockets to the point that you're now not a wealthy man, you're an oligarch. And you still are so consumed with power and hubris and control that you've got to rig the Senate majority leadership. I know it's Senate Republican, but whoever's the Republican leader becomes the majority leader. I mean, these people are sick. They're twisted, man. They really are. And so you just like they're just like, it's like, you know, you pry your hands, like let go of power, like just rip his hand, like, you know what I mean? Like just, you know, it's going to be every inch, every step of the way with these people. So look, you do what you can when you can. This is our chance. Let's ring that phone off the hook. And who knows? Maybe self-preservation will push them to do the right thing. Again, the number on Capitol Hill, 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. Call any Republican senator you want. A lot of you are saying, well, Jeff, I want to call Susan Collins because, we're New England and she's one of the few senators, Republicans from New England. Give her a call. Give anybody a call. Frankly, give Ted Cruz a call. Give Hawley a call. Give Blackburn a call. Give them all a call. And say, I'm sorry, why aren't you supporting Rick Scott? Well, if you're thinking of running in 2028, you just lost my vote. You'd be amazed. Suddenly, on second thought, so let's just keep the pressure on. Mike in Beverly, thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. It kind of looks like it's a given that we're going to get Thune or Cornyn. What's this I've been hearing about J.D. Vance being the Senate president and he can overrule anything? Do you know anything about any of that?
Well, the only power he has is if it's a 50-50 tie. As the Senate president, he would have he'd cast the deciding vote. But that's it. I mean, that's the only influence he can wield. Mike, I think honestly the strategy now, I don't want to throw in the towel yet on Scott because a lot of people on the Hill are saying, look, we have all day today. There are numerous Republican senators who are still on the fence. And that leak scared them. Because that leak from that podcaster. And the reason why it scared them is a lot of these senators say, we don't want the wrath of MAGA. And we don't want this to haunt us if we run for re-election. And if it gets out that we voted against Trump and voted against MAGA by voting against Rick Scott, it could cost them their re-election. So they may sway enough of them to vote for Rick Scott, that he becomes number 2. And then whoever finishes third is automatically taken out of the race, right? It's a 3-person race. So then it'll go to the second ballot, probably on Thursday. Now, people are saying if it's a 2-person race between Thune and Scott, then Thune could be in trouble. So McConnell's strategy is a quick, decisive victory, a blitzkrieg. That's why he put up 2 of his people, go in hard, go in heavy, knock Scott out right away, and then McConnell is on easy street. Because it doesn't matter if it's Cornyn or Thune, he wins. So if we can just get Scott, I know MAGA, we like to think, let's win, right? I get it. We want a touchdown on every pass. But if we can just get Scott from third to second, then we're playing in the second half, to use a football analogy. And we can win this in the second half. So we've got to get Scott into second place. Then it's going to be toe-to-toe, Thune versus Scott. And then the pressure is going to really grow against Thune. Because I'm telling you, if it's a 2-person race, MAGA will rally around Scott. And the establishment now is going to be under siege, under tremendous withering pressure to not go with John Thune. So that's why the globalists that's why McConnell did this vote so early, deliberately, and basically in the dark. Because if you look at the media, Fox is touching on it, but the rest of the media, it's all Rubio was picked, Kristi Noem was picked, Tom Homan as border czar was picked, Stephen Miller is going to be his deputy chief of staff, Susie Wiles is going to be his chief of staff. So everything is focused on key picks in his cabinet or around his team. Nobody is watching this race. And this race is very important. I would argue even more important outside of the attorney general than any other pick that Trump makes. Because Senate Majority Leader has immense power over every piece of legislation. And we're going to really change this country through legislation. Executive orders are great, but as Biden showed, you can repeal executive orders on day one. But once you pass it in Congress, it's very hard to get rid of it. So that's why we've call and let's not give up the fight. Final word to you, Mike.
Well, that's
my big worry is the doing everything in darkness, and I don't like that. It's.
No, I agree. It's
kind of feel like. Well,
I mean, Mike. Honestly, look, Mike. Really, you know where I stand on every issue. I know where you stand on every issue. Everything is open. It's transparent. It's, Mike believes X, Y, and Z. Jeff Kuhner believes X, Y, and Z. You like. It's a free country. When you do stuff like this, as you put it, in darkness, then I know sleazy stuff is going on. It's obvious. That's corruption works in secrecy. Corruption never works. You know what they say? Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Corruption never succeeds in the open, only in the shadows. So that's why they have to do it in the shadows. That's why it has to be a secret vote. And honestly, Mike, think about it. What are you hiding? Like, why does this have to be secret? Look, if John Thune is the best man for the job, just hypothetically, okay, then defend him. What's the problem? I mean, forget voting in public. You should have the debates in public. The caucus where they meet. We should be able to, on C-SPAN, I'm not saying it's got to be on, Channel 4, but on C-SPAN or whatever, we can, as the voters, say, well, yeah, okay. I'm just using an example. Ted Cruz thinks Cornyn is the best. Why? Well, is it because I needed money, I was going to lose my race, and Cornyn made sure I got enough money to win the election? So, honestly, is Cornyn a gun control guy? Yes. Is he an open borders guy? Yes. Is he a globalist? Yes. Is he a never-Trumper? Yes. Do I disagree with him on practically everything else? Yes. But I owe him. Okay, well, at least have the guts and the honesty to say it. Instead of all of this, you say one thing in public and then do the exact opposite in private. Or whatever. So, to me, if they're the best candidates, tell us why. They can't. Because they know they're not the best candidates. You know what it is? He got my wife a job. He steered me enough campaign cash for my reelection. He promised me if I run for president in 2028, I'll have, $25 million waiting for me. I needed that bridge in my state. Whatever. My nephew needed that job. He promised my nephew that job. I'm telling you, that's what this is. And poor Rick Scott is going around saying, I want to do the president's agenda. I want to do the will of the people. On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Kuhner country. Yeah. Winning, 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 as Trump would say. So, I know it's a bit of a side issue compared to what we're talking about now. But do you remember I spoke about this? Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Sarah Murray, the Moonbat school committee member at Millbury Memorial High School. And remember, she talked, she threatened to kill all Trump supporters, saying, I want you to choke on a piece of, I gotta clean it up, on a piece of excrement covered in glass. Well, you called the school. I know you called the school. And I went on a political jihad on my X account, and many of you joined me on this warpath, and she has now resigned, effective immediately. So, this deranged, crazy moonbat who like to violently threaten Trump supporters and Trump voters because of the backlash that we created, saying we're just not going to take this anymore. And people like you should not be around children. Gone. So we have, she was forced to resign. She tendered her resignation, and the school board accepted it immediately. So, that's what I'm saying. If you don't fight, you can't win. And the more we fight, the more we're going to win. So let's call up Capitol Hill. And let's see if we can turn this Senate Republican leadership race not into a coronation for the rhinos, but into a dogfight. 202-224-3121 is the number up on Capitol Hill. It's the switchboard. Just ask for any Republican senator you want. You take your pick. 202-224-3121, and you tell them, stop the rhinos. No rhinos. We want Rick Scott as the next Senate Majority Leader. 617-266-6868. Okay. Very, very quickly. This is from Nick on Messenger. I think he hit the nail right on the head. And actually, it's pretty funny. Jeff, the Republican way. A golden opportunity to fix Washington, D.C., and we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot. Yep, it's the Republican way. Once in a generation opportunity, this window that we have to drain that swamp once and for all, to really fix our country, restore our republic, secure our borders, start finally deporting all of these illegals. And you got Mitch McConnell now with John Thune and Cornyn. And just, hey, let's blow this thing up right on the tarmac. Right there, right from the beginning. We're just going to sabotage the whole thing. Remember what Paul Rhino Ryan did to Trump early on in his first term? And then McConnell, of course, was working with them behind the scenes. That's exactly what they're trying to do now. The Trojan horses are Thune and Cornyn. Let's stop them. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Jeff in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Hey, how are you? I just got something to report on Kuhn and Thurm. Basically, they were responsible for the persecution of the January 6th political prisoners. Julie Kelly's done fantastic work on it. I recommend everybody look her up and look at her work. It's incredible. And they were single-handedly responsible for working with Democrats to see that the January 6th political prisoners were locked up.
Jeff, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your opening sentence, the first few words. Who was working with the Democrats?
Cornyn and Thune.
Oh,
were
really?
Working with the Democrats. Julie Kelly, look it up. She's done incredible work on it. And this should motivate everybody to pick up their phone and call. I mean, these people have been locked up for years now. Rapists don't get the amount of time that these people got for walking through doors that they opened up at the Capitol.
Jeff, I read her book. I read her columns whenever I see them. I love Julie Kelly. I think her work is outstanding. Jeff, do you know where you saw that? I'll have Sandy track it down for me.
Benny Johnson.
Benny Johnson.
Had her on.
All right. I'll definitely take a look.
Had her on the other day.
So Jeff, Thune and Cornyn were working with the Democrats. Well, Thune basically wanted Trump ousted for January 6th. Both he and Cornyn said that he was unfit for office. He should never run again. They sided with McConnell completely, and they wanted to blackball Trump from the get-go. So I'm not surprised that they took this attitude against the J6ers. Jeff, they're rhino scum. I mean, I'm sorry to put it like this, but that's what they are. Jeff, do you think Rick Scott has a chance?
I hope he has a chance, and I think that if everybody is to hear what Julie Kelly had said the other day, they would be more apt to pick the phone up. I think people need to wake up. We can't have this going on, because if two of these people get in there, either one of the two that we're talking about, it's just going to be obstruction, just like Mike Pompeo recommended Gina Haspel.
Oh, excellent. Boy, Jeff, dynamite stuff. Jeff, thank you very much for that call. He's right, by the way. Pompeo was a hack for the deep state. And that's why when Trump came out and said, hey, Nikki Haley, not going to be part of my cabinet. Mike Pompeo, not going to be part of my administration. Personnel is policy. And you want people that will be loyal, not just to Trump, but to the voters who elected Trump. 617-266-6868 is the number. So there you have it. According to Julie Kelly, Thune and Cornyn were working behind the scenes to make sure the J6ers rotted in jail for years and years and years. And we're going to have them trust them with the Senate majority leader, the Senate Republican majority. Forgive me, the Senate Republican majority that Trump won. Who do you think helped win Bernie Marino win that seat in Ohio? It was Trump. Who do you think helped Sheehy out in Montana? It was Trump. Who do you think helped McCormick win Pennsylvania? It was Trump. So the Republicans owe their majority in the Senate to Trump. Let it be Rick Scott. Trump deserves it. 31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, all right, it's now everywhere. It's gone viral. Trump supporters now are getting the word out. We're trying to head the rhinos off at the pass. So listen now to this. Apparently now there is a video that is being circulated by many of Trump voters. Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson are doing everything they can to mobilize Trump supporters to call Capitol Hill and demand that every single Senate Republican vote for Rick Scott in the race tomorrow, or in the election tomorrow, I guess, is the better way to put it, in tomorrow's secret ballot election to pick Mitch McConnell's successor. 2 out of the 3 are rhinos, John Thune and Cornyn. John Cornyn of Texas, John Thune of South Dakota, both lieutenants of McConnell, very close to him over many years. There's a video now of both of them. This is just last year. In the wake of that garbage E. Jean Carroll case, that ridiculous judgment about Trump apparently sexually assaulting her or abusing her, at that department store. And she won this ridiculous judgment. Well, Thune and Cornyn came out blasting Trump, ripping Trump to shreds. I mean, just tearing right into him. So it's obvious. They are never Trumpers. They are against him. They are against MAGA. And the only reason why they want the top job is because their goal is to sabotage, undermine, block Trump at every turn. I mean, really now, it's getting, whatever you think of Rick Scott, he's not a freaking saboteur. Thune and Cornyn are Judases, and their job is to continue McConnell's legacy of stopping Trump at all costs. So, again, the number to call on Capitol Hill, look, Kuhner Country, I know what we can do. I just mentioned Sarah Murray. One day, 24 hours, we started to light up the phones, go on social media, and Sarah Murray is now gone as a school committee member from Millbury High because she called for Trump supporters to basically choke to death on excrement covered in broken glass. So I know the power of Kuhner Country. We can move mountains if we want to. 202-224-3121. That's the switchboard on Capitol Hill. Call any Republican senator and you tell them we will not accept Thune or Cornyn. Period. Full stop. That they have vilified Trump in the past and that they have been openly seeking to undermine him and prevent him from coming back to the White House. And this is just as late as last year, for God's sake. 202-224-3121. Mags in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mags, and welcome.
Jeff, congratulations. I haven't talked to you since we
did
won.
it. Mags, did we do it or what?
And Kuhner Country can do anything. So Thune and Kuhnen, they're not going anywhere, okay? And I don't understand why we haven't learned our lesson from these evil criminals. And they're treasonous. Mitch McConnell shouldn't have anything to do with any of this. He's done. He's dried up. He's washed up. And we also know that he's probably going to be punished in some way for everything that he's done against our country, which is appropriate. I agree with your callers earlier saying that we should be able to see everything that our government does. These people work for us. And they seem to forgot somewhere along the line that they do work for us. And I think it's time for them to be reminded over and over again that they work for us. What do you think, Jeff?
Oh, I agree. I completely agree, Mags. And, look at the arrogance of these people. And, and look, I kind of feel bad for us, really, Mags, because this is the time where we should be savoring our victory, enjoying it, taking it in. It's been a horrendous 4 years. You know it. I know it. We all know it. We suffered through hell for the last 4 years. And honestly, at this point, we should be having fun, talking about some of Trump's picks. Which ones do we like? Which ones we're a little bit more, skeptical about, or maybe some of us like certain picks better than others. And, really have a nice, really fun discussion leading up until Thanksgiving and just savoring one of the most spectacular election victories in American history. And there's McConnell, honestly, like Darth Vader. He's just plotting and plotting and plotting. And, I'm just shocked he didn't set this vote up last week. 2 days after the election. I mean, how fast do you want to make it? So it's obvious. They're trying to pull the wool over our eyes. They're trying to catch us asleep. They want us to continue celebrating and thinking we're not going to pay attention. Well, you know what? We're starting to pay attention. And the more we see of Thune and the more we see of Cornyn, you're completely right. They're rhino traders. They're Judases. And, honestly, Mags, South Dakota can do a hell of a lot better than John Thune. Texas can do a hell of a lot better than John Cornyn. This is the best the establishment Republicans can come up with? These two losers? These never Trump, anti-Trump losers? So, look, Mags, I'm just hoping that MAGA has been awakened enough to, ring those phones off the hook and keep emailing and just keep putting the pressure on. All I want, Mags, is for Rick Scott tomorrow to come in second. Make it a two-person race. Because if it's a two-person race, I think we can prevail. If Scott loses, if he finishes third, then Mags, we're screwed. I mean, I'm not saying it's over, far from it. But now we're back to the first, his first term, his first administration, where he's going to be constantly getting, stabbed right in the back by his own. What say you, Mags?
Jeff, I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to happen. We haven't worked this hard, MAGA, to get our man in, to have them flush us down the toilet again. It's not going to happen. Not happening, Jeff. I was up and watched his acceptance speech at 2:30 in the morning. I started crying, Jeff. I was crying. I was so happy because you know why? Because I can see light at the end of the tunnel of them trying to ruin our country. God bless America. God bless you, Jeff. And God bless our President Trump. We are going to do this. We are going to make sure that Scott is in.
Amen.
And everybody else is out.
Amen. Amen. Mags, thank you so much for that vote. By the way, tomorrow, Joe Biden is meeting Trump in the Oval Office. Now, you're going to say, well, Jeff. I mean, what does that mean, Jeff? I don't think it's a coincidence. It sucks all the oxygen out of the room. Remember, McConnell was working with Biden for years. McConnell privately admitted, he goes, I'd much rather work with Biden than Trump. So, no, this was all coordinated. You invite Trump to the Oval Office. It'll be a big, because trust me, all the media is going to be there. Will they shake hands? Will they, will they say to each other? What did Trump say in private? What did Biden say in private? He called him a Nazi, a threat to democracy, blah, 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 blah. Now they're shaking hands and acting all nice. So that's going to be the big story that dominates the entire news cycle tomorrow. All day. But what's really, look here. Here's the left hand. Look at the left hand. Look at the left hand. Look. What's happening with the right hand? There's Darth Vader. There's Turtleneck. There's Mitch. There's Mitch the Squish. And he sets up this vote in secret, closed doors. They're upset that we're making such a big deal about this. Because Thune and Cornyn thought we got this in the bag. One of us two is going to get it. And son of a bee, people like Elon have to raise a stink, and Tucker, now me, now Kuhner country, now MAGA's up in arms. Oh, no. Oh, no. Now they're calling our phones. Oh, no. Let's have this in the light, not in the darkness. We want to know who you're voting for and why. You owe us that explanation. And the fact of the matter is, whatever you think of Rick Scott, John Thune and Cornyn are infinitely worse on every level. And they represent a betrayal of MAGA, of Trump, and of this sweeping, stunning mandate that he's just been given. And one final point. I know I said it before, but it bears repeating again. This is what I find disgusting. Had McConnell had his way, you think it'd be Trump that'd be the nominee? It would be Neocon Nikki or Chris Christie. Okay? Manja, Buffet, Chris Buffet Christie. Okay? It would have been a slaughter. It would have been a slaughter, a political massacre. Kamala Harris would have won. In fact, I don't even think Joe Biden even would have stepped out of the race, to be honest with you. The Democrats would have made mincemeat out of Neocon Nikki or Chris Christie, and the Republicans wouldn't come close to winning back the Senate. The only reason why the Republicans now are going to control that chamber, and one of these three men is going to be the next Senate majority leader, is because of Trump and his coattails. Who dragged McCormick over the finish line in Pennsylvania? Trump. Marino in Ohio? Trump. Sheehy in Montana? Trump. I could go on and on. And now you want to shiv him right in the back? No. Blank me, blank you. RKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, many of you are, Jeff, please, can you give out that switchboard number again up on Capitol Hill? Because we want to voice our opinion and tell these Senate Republicans, these Republican senators, who they should vote for in tomorrow's secret ballot closed door session to replace Mitch McConnell. It's now down to 3 candidates. They're the only 3 running. John Thune, John Cornyn, and Rick Scott. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. Tim in Seekonk. Thanks for holding, Tim, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Tim.
Obviously, we have to use every tool in the toolbox to get Scott in there. Failing that, what happens on January 20th when Trump is sworn in, the inauguration?
Oh, he becomes president.
Yes, but who becomes the president of the Senate?
J.D. Vance.
Right. The Senate Majority Leader position is not a constitutionally required office.
Oh, so you're saying, Tim, if need be, we can have J.D. Vance, basically Bigfoot, say John Thune or Cornyn, should they win this, correct?
Kind of, sort of, yes.
Interesting.
There may be, and I don't know yet. I read this somewhere, and forgive me, I can't remember where, but there may be historical precedent for this. I am not sure, but I think it merits some thought and discussion.
Well, Tim, to me, look, the way to end this obviously would be to, have Tim Scott win, and just, block McConnell. Tim, maybe I'm just being naive, but I cannot believe that these guys can barely wait a week and they're already looking to stick the knife right into Trump. I mean, it's literally 7 days today. A week ago was the election. And already by the weekend, they had this thing all planned. They had the closed door session. John Thune and Cornyn were already making their pitch. They were already lobbying members. Rick Scott was looking around saying, what? You called a vote this early? Normally, it's like by January. Normally, you have several months. Get more candidates to come forward. They're vetted. They answer a lot of questions. It's a rigorous process. You're deciding the next leader of the Senate. And instead, boom. I mean, Tim, it just, we turn our head for a second and there they are. And I got to tell you, look, I'm starting to think more and more Trump's got to weigh in on this. This is getting out of control. And I think Trump needs to, go down to the Senate himself if need be and talk to them and say, look, guys, no, I won. Rick Scott's my guy. You're all going to fall in line and you're going to vote for Rick Scott. End of story. What say you?
Possible fight like hell. And earlier, I think you alluded to potentially, if we have a good AG and the Attorney General, even lawfare to dig some dirt up in these guys, Thune, Cornyn, and so forth. But every tool in the toolbox. And we should be looking into this thing where maybe J.D. Vance, to use your term, Bigfoot's it's a Senate rule. It's not a constitutional office.
You're right. No, Tim, you're completely right. And look, one of the arch constitutionalists in the Senate, and that's why I respect him so much, is Senator Mike Lee. And Senator Mike Lee has come out and said exactly what you just said. Senator Mike Lee said, hey, look, if the swamp, if the uniparty, if they want to play these games, if the ruling class and the rhinos, if this is how they want to play it, he goes, you know what? J.D. Vance could technically become the leader of the Senate. Like, if this is how you guys want to play it, we'll have J.D. Vance installed, as you said, on January 20th, officially become Senate president. And you know what? As the president of the Senate, he'll be our leader. And he'll circumvent or eclipse, these clowns like Thune or Cornyn. Like, in other words, I'm sorry, but enough is enough. So Mike Lee says there's clear constitutional authority for J.D. Vance to become the de facto leader of the Senate Republicans and to become the de facto leader of the Senate. So, really, look, I mean this, Tim. I'm a small d Democrat, small r Republican in the truest sense of the word. I really do. You want to caucus, you want to decide who your leader is. Fine. Do it open. Do it publicly. Do it transparently. You want John Thune? You tell me why. Tell the voters why. And you want Rick Scott or whoever wants Rick, tell us why. And let's see the vote in public. I want to know which Republican senator votes for who to be a leader, because that's going to dramatically impact you, me, our mandate, the election, Trump and his agenda. They owe this to us. And instead that they're going to do this in the dark, behind closed doors, shrouded in secrecy. But they're all like, oh, we can't tell you how we voted. Yes, you can. They're acting like, they're trying to give the impression, Tim, like almost like legally, constitutionally, I can't tell you who I voted for. No, as you rightly put it, this is all just a rule. This is not constitutional. This is not, embedded in the Constitution. So, no, you can tell us how you voted. You just don't want to tell us. So, they want to do this in the dead of night, then I know they're up to no good. So, if they want to play this game, I'm with Mike Lee. Okay. You don't want Rick Scott? All right. Now we're going to really stick it to you rhinos. You're getting J.D. Vance. Choke on that. Final word to you, Tim.
3 words. Fight, fight, fight.
I love it. Tim, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Look, I'll be brutally honest with you. Not that I'm trying to undercut Rick Scott here. I would take J.D. Vance over Rick Scott in a heartbeat. Nothing against Rick Scott. But I mean, a J.D., as the leader of the Senate Republicans? Oh, yeah. All the way, baby. But look, I want to do it the nice way. All right? Fine. You want to pick from within your ranks who got elected as a senator to be the Senate Majority Leader, the Senate Republican leader, and obviously the Senate Majority Leader. Fine. Okay. But I'm tired of the shenanigans. I'm tired of the dirty tricks. Honestly, I'm tired of the damn corruption. And this is so corrupt on every level. Agree, disagree. Sheldon in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Sheldon, and welcome.
Jeff, not only do you have the best morning show, you're also a mind reader of your callers. You just said everything I was going to say. What I was going to say to you is, while Trump is in Washington, why doesn't he go over to that Senate and go into that meeting and talk to those guys and say, hey, guys, we need to get this done? Let's be honest. Look at the two guys who don't need to have anything to do with government, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. They've got plenty of money. They could have ridden away into the sunset and not had anything to do with this. But they're there fighting for all of us. And all of these senators, this swamp creature is extremely strong. I guarantee it, McConnell and Thune and Cornyn went in there and said, we rode this guy out for 4 years. All we have to do is ride him out for 4 more, and we can go back to doing whatever the heck we want to do in here. And it's time for Trump to stand up and say, if you ever want anything done in this country, we need term limits. I don't care what you're for, whether it's women's rights, lower taxes, pro-life, whatever the case may be. Go in there and fight for it and then get the heck out. We don't need people in there for a lifetime. It's the most frustrating thing. It is my hot button issue, and we're never going to solve the issues in this country if we don't get term limits.
Sheldon, don't get me wrong. I only have eyes for my wife, but I love you in a non-sexual way, my friend. You hit the nail right on the head. I'm telling you, you're saying, I read your mind? No, you read my mind. I could not have said it better myself. And to me, this is what I think is obviously clear. There's so much power. There's so much money. There's so much temptation. There's so much graft in Washington. You're there for more than 10 years, it swallows you up. It's so obvious. It's such a corrupting influence. That's why you need term limits. For senators, I would give them 2 max. 2 terms, that's it. That's 12 years. If you can't do what you need to get enacted in 12 years, I'm sorry, bye, give somebody else a chance. Now, I don't know, on the House, we can agree to disagree. 4 terms? 8 years? 3 terms? Whatever. We can, whatever. 8 years. That's a lot of time. That's, or 6 years, whatever. I mean, I'm not, wedded to a certain number of years, but whatever the term limit is, nothing too long. 8 years. You got 8 years. If you can't get what you want to get done in 8 years, I'm sorry. Make room for somebody else. And Trump I think he's got to go there and say, look, you didn't win this mandate. I won this mandate. And I would really point at Thune and Cornyn. In fact, you wanted me out in 2016. You wanted me out in 2020. You wanted me out after E. Jean Carroll. You did everything you could. You and your boss, your puppet master, McConnell, did everything you could to destroy and discredit MAGA. And now you want to get the rewards? No. I'm sorry. Whatever you may think about old Ricky here, okay? Rick Scott. He backed me. He supported me. He was my surrogate. He was with me. Went through thick and thin. When I was, on the ropes, he had my back. You guys were the ones putting the knife in my back. You're not getting the Senate Republican leadership. No way over my dead body. Now, we have a mandate. I won you guys the Senate. I'm telling you, it's Rick Scott. Now, if you guys want to get another MAGA or another conservative, it's up to you. But you're giving me 3 options. You're giving me 2 Judases and 1 guy who supported me. I'm going with the guy who supported me, and I want every single one of you to do as well. It's time for all of you to fall in line. Bingo, that's it. Or else I'm telling you, we're going to primary your ass. Sheldon, final word to you, my friend.
As I said, term limit.
Sheldon, my genius caller, you're breaking up. I can't hear you. But Sheldon, thank you so much for that call. I agree with him completely. We got to have term limits. And by the way, Trump favors term limits. And Rick Scott, Eric, one of our, on Messenger, one of our listeners, said that very point. He goes, Jeff, I'm telling you, one of the big reasons why they hate Rick Scott is because Rick Scott has made a big deal about term limits. And the one thing these swamp creatures don't want, because you see, term limits, that limits their money, their ability to make money. You see, that term limits their ability to line their pockets. The longer you, look at Joe Biden, the longer you stay in politics, the more graft, the more corruption, the more bribes, the more money you can make. Here, just to give you an example, okay? Because we're bashing Republicans now, let's go to the Democrats for a second. Yesterday, the fake Indian, Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, issued this statement. You want to see how absurd this is? Saying that Trump has already broken the law. So the guy just won last week. They declared him the winner on Wednesday, 6 days ago. He hasn't even put together a cabinet yet, or his team. It doesn't matter. He's already broken the law. Jeff. How the hell did Trump already break the law? The guy's still a private citizen. According to the chief. Okay, the chief spreading bull. Trump broke the law because he didn't sign an ethics agreement. According to Elizabeth Warren. So they're already saying, well, we're going to impeach him. For what? Well, he didn't sign an ethics agreement. Who cares? But to me, the bigger point is this. This charlatan, this corrupt fraud is going to lecture us on ethics. She has no moral authority to do so. And I don't mean the whole fake Indian bit and how she lied to take a position from a real minority to climb up through academia. No. Forget all of that, okay? I want to ask all of you, how much do you think the chief is worth? How much? Take a guess. What is Pocahontas worth? Jeff, 10 million. Really? 20 million, Jeff. 30 million? Jeff, come on. She's worth 50 million? $67 million. Elizabeth Warren is worth $67 million. And all of that on a $400,000 salary. Let me repeat this one more time. You want to see what a bunch of crooks and thieves these people are? Okay, I'm telling you, this is becoming like Eastern Europe. Like where it's obscene. I told you, it's disgusting. I told you the saying, take, but not so much. I mean, leave a little bit for the little people, for God's sake. Don't take it all. $67 million net worth on a $400,000 a year salary. And she's going to lecture Trump on ethics and ethics agreements? Get lost. Get lost. Now, she just got reelected again, okay, because of the moonbats in this state. Term limits. She's not in it for Massachusetts. Seriously, objectively, forget left, right, conservative, liberal. Has she brought any money for bridges, for roads, schools, hospitals, the fishermen? I don't care. Take your pick. Has she done anything concrete for this state? Anything? No. She's been using her position to advance her career, advance her national profile, run for president, and yes, book deal after book deal, speaking fee after speaking fee, line her pockets. $67 million. Now, that's the ultimate grift. She's basically now an oligarch. Anything 50 million and above, you're an oligarch. Okay, that's big money. That's real big money. 67 million. It's time for term limits. Donna in Boston. Thanks for holding, Donna, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Donna.
I'm going to be very brief. The vote must be postponed immediately. The issue of the secret vote must be reviewed once and for all. Mitch is deciding to keep secret this vote? No way. There are millions of voters who want an open vote. We're done with secrecy. We don't want possibly treasonous activity. So, this issue, where are you, constitutional attorneys and such? Let's get the secret vote out. Let's find out if he has the authority to do this on behalf of millions of voters who do not have time to call his office. We need days and days to call his office.
Donna, thank you very much for that call. And look, let me just, again, you're completely right, Donna. Like, I mean, what is this now? We have to drag him kicking and screaming on everything? You know, some of us have jobs. Some of us have lives. Some of us have families. We got bills to pay. Like, you think we have time to just keep calling Capitol Hill all the time? You know, telling these guys to do the right thing? Like the most basic things? And look, if I can bare my soul to all of you, like I'm in the confessional, okay, to be brutally honest, I'm slightly annoyed, and not at you, obviously, or at McConnell. I'm more than annoyed, actually, but I'm just saying I'm annoyed at McConnell. I'm annoyed at Thune. I'm annoyed at Cornyn. I'm annoyed at all of these rhinos, and I'll tell you why. Because we won one of the greatest victories in American history. Can't we just have a little bit of time to celebrate and enjoy and take it in? Like, that's what I find so disgusting about these people. It's always greed and power and advantage and control and corruption. And again, it's like the devil. The devil never sleeps. The devil is relentless. The devil is restless. The devil is constant. The devil never stops. So I'm just looking, and by the way, you can look it up. Please don't take my word for it. When do you think they normally do these elections? You know, for Senate, you know, either Democratic leader, Republican leader, or House Republican leader, or House Democratic leader. It's near January. Why? Well, you want to know the new members that come in. You want to give people enough time to, you know, make what they're going to do, what their program is, make their case, talk to people, go to the voters, obviously, you know, try to make their case to fellow senators. And then after a good, robust process and discussion and decision, you know, and back and forth, they make a decision. I've never seen this in my life in less than a week. In less than a week, in secret, in the dark. I've never seen this. So, look, Kuhner country, we've got to get back on our horse and ride into battle one more time. Are you with me? 266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's official now. The Republicans have retained control of the House of Representatives. They have hit the magic number of 218. They will have a majority. So, it is a complete, clean sweep. The House, the Senate, the presidency, and of course the Supreme Court, every branch of government is now not just in Republican control, but in MAGA Republican control. And that's why we want to make sure that Thune and Cornyn are not voted in as the next speaker, majority leader in the Senate. 617-266-6868. You can also text us 70470. This is from Vicky on Messenger. And this is what she messaged me. Jeff, you mentioned you didn't know why McConnell didn't schedule this vote earlier, like a couple days after the election. Remember, he couldn't. He thought they'd still be counting the votes to confirm Kamala. I'm sure he was totally surprised when they called the election so quickly. Bingo, Vicky. Absolute. You're right. Because if he could have set this up on Thursday or Friday of last week, McConnell would have done it. Many of you are asking me very quick, Jeff, what are Thune's positions and Cornyn's positions on things like Ukraine and war? They're both warmongers. They're both big supporters of unlimited aid to Ukraine. They are both considered neoconservatives. Both of them are Cornyn is actually even worse than Thune. Cornyn is pro-gun control. Cornyn is open borders. Cornyn is pro-amnesty for illegals. Thune is not quite that bad because he comes from South Dakota is a solidly red state. Texas is reddish, it's pink, but South Dakota is rock hard red. And so there's stuff that Cornyn, can get away with that Thune can't. But they are both warmongering neocons who want war in Ukraine, war against Iran, war all over the world. And that's another reason why we can't have them become the next Senate Majority Leader. Hal in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Hal, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, I want to. I have to disagree with you on the term limits, and there's quite a few reasons why. And of course, it sounds very appealing at first view, but if you give it some consideration, first off, it will give us a permanent lame duck Congress, which would be kind of a dangerous thing. That's, I think, one of the major issues of it. It also gets the good with the bad. So you get guys like Rand Paul that will be limited out just as much as Nancy Pelosi or anyone else. And the other thing is it doesn't change the ideological makeup because you get rid of Nancy Pelosi, you're not going to get a Ron Paul to fill her place. You're going to get someone probably just as bad. And look at Maine, for example. They have term limits at the state level. And they had a pretty good governor, Paul LePage. He was limited out. And now they're stuck with this horrible governor. And they don't seem, and she'd be out next term, but, she's done her damage. So it sounds appealing, but when you give it a little more thought. But, our founders were brilliant. And I think you agree with that. They gave us term limits at the ballot box. Every 2 years, we can have a complete new House and 1/3 of the Senate. And, of course, state and local offices as well. So, I think the dangerous thing with this term limit movement is a call for an Article 5 convention, which could be very dangerous. And that's what some of these term limit people are pushing. And they're working with left-wing groups to do that. And, I sat in and testified and show evidence of that. These people work. There's a group called Wolfpack, founded by Cenk Uygur, that's promoting an Article 5 convention. And these people with term limits, you would say, are actually working together with that repulsive human being.
Well, Hal, look, this is, you're making obviously a very intelligent, very coherent, very logical, honestly, very reasonable argument, and people can agree to disagree. The reason why I support term limits is I go back to our founding fathers. Now, it wasn't encoded in law. You're right. But, George Washington came out and said, no, I'm serving 2 terms. That's it. 2 terms is enough. And the reason why he said 2 terms is enough, he goes, anything more than 2 terms begins to have a corrupting, corrosive influence. And Thomas Jefferson followed, and then James Madison. And that was the standard, the precedent that existed until FDR, who served, as you know, 4 terms, 3.5. He died very early in his 4th term. And I would argue he was the worst president we ever had. Really, I could easily make that up. Now, Biden is probably past him. But if you look at what FDR did incalculable damage. almost irreversible damage to our constitutional republic. And because in 1940, he broke that tradition set by Washington. Now, you're mentioning Pelosi and Rand Paul. That's a very good point. But most members of Congress, frankly, are horrible. There's like one Rand Paul, and there's like 90 corrupt members of the Senate. That's why I'm for term limits. I'm the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, many of you are texting the Kuhner Man. Again, you can text us 70470. 70470 saying, Jeff, please, can you give out that number to call the Capitol Hill switchboard? We want to talk to every Republican senator we can before the all-important vote tomorrow. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. Light up their phones. A lot of you are getting back to me saying, Jeff, it's going straight to voicemail. That's no problem. Just leave please be polite, but firm. And just, let them know who we want Rick Scott. And if you vote for Thune or Cornyn, we're going to remember. We want to change the way Washington works, and the swamp must be drained. And to drain it, we don't want swamp creatures to run it. It's really that simple. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Janet in Braintree. Thanks for holding, Janet, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Janet.
I have a question about the vote for term limits.
Yes.
Not to vote for term limits, but
Senate leadership
right,
tomorrow.
But the term limits in general and things like pay raises. Why do we leave this in the hands, these decisions in the hands of Congress? They are our employees. And I understand that there are the greedy and the power hungry who want to be able to control these decisions, but why can we not wrest that control from them?
We can. We just don't.
How can we? We've voted Trump in. We've given him a mandate. We can make these phone calls and push them to elect a leader who is in line with the policies that we voted for. Other than that, why is this not on the ballot?
Well, look, Trump can only do so much in 4 years. But to get to your point, this is now what I mean. This is a once in a generation chance. And I don't want to blow it. I really don't. And I don't think we will, by the way. I think Trump's going to be incredibly successful because what comes after Trump is going to be J.D. Vance. I don't want to look too far into the future, but he is the presumptive heir. He's the vice president. He agrees with so much of Trump's agenda. He's articulate, intelligent, a great spokesperson. We're looking at 12 years of MAGA rule, America First rule. And I think term limits will come. I think it's inevitable now. I think most voters are going to demand it. They're going to insist upon it. And they're going to demand that it get passed both in the Senate and in the House. And I think the American people are going to say enough is enough. We don't want politicians to be there for an entire lifetime. Now, look, the counter argument, Janet, is what Hal made. And he makes a very good argument. And look, it goes back to the 19th century, just very quick. There were three outstanding senators. They're called the Great Triumvirate. Daniel Webster from Massachusetts, Henry Clay from Kentucky, and John Calhoun from South Carolina. And the reason why they almost dominated American politics for 40 years, because they were actually better, smarter, and more well-known than any of the presidents during which they lived. And they so defended and articulated the interests and values of their regions. Calhoun, the South, Webster, the Northeast, which was now really the economic power in the country at the time, and Clay, the rising West. So the argument that people made was, well, if you have term limits, you're not going to have a Henry Clay. You're not going to have a Daniel Webster. You're not going to have a John Calhoun. Or today they'll say, hey, you're not going to have a Rand Paul, right? You're not going to have, but the counter argument is those are the exceptions that prove the rule. We're talking about 3 men in the entire 19th century. We're talking about what? Let's throw in Josh Hawley and we can throw in a few more. But basically, what are you looking at? 4, 5 members of the Senate out of a body of 100? Let's look at the House of Representatives. You can throw in what? Maybe 10, 15? Let's really stretch it. Truly honest, decent, patriotic members of Congress who aren't there to line their pockets or corruption or power or that really are there to do the people's business. Well, that leaves another 420. So you're looking at 420 corrupt individuals just in the House, 90 to 95 in the Senate. And you wonder why we're in the mess that we're in. And Janet, that's why to me, term limits, I'm not saying it's the magic bullet. I'm not saying, we have term limits and it's a utopia in America. But if you're only going to be here for 2 terms, or I don't know, let's say 3 or 4 terms in the House, let me tell you what this prevents, which is what you're seeing now all the time. What are called political entrepreneurs. That's what Elizabeth Warren really is. That's what Mitch McConnell at his core, really. John Thune, Cornyn, Pelosi. I could go on and on. I really want to be, I want to be incredibly wealthy, rich, and powerful. Well, I'm not really that smart. And I really can't invent a product. Nah, I'm really horrible at the private sector. Nah, I don't want to work that hard. How do I do it? Get into politics. And if I can just lie enough and be brazen enough and be sleazy and corrupt enough, have no conscience, no scruples, and screw my country and my constituents, lie to their faces, I can become fabulously rich. So, Janet, for example, I mentioned Elizabeth Warren. Do you know how hard it is for someone to be worth $67 million? Just the business people out there. I mean, I'm talking contractors. I'm talking people who break their back. Okay, running a business, a successful business. They're putting in 80, 90, 100 hours a week. They got to meet payroll. They're dealing with employees. They got to deal with the government, regulations, paperwork, stress. I mean, if they make a couple million, they're like they struck it rich. This 67 million, easy money. You just got to be a whore. Or to be more accurate, a political mercenary, okay? Because I don't want her to complain to the FCC and have them now want me off the air, because God forbid I call them for what they are. So if you're willing to prostitute your country and you're willing to essentially prostitute yourself, you can make a ton of money in politics. But you need time. You got to be on this committee and that committee and grease this person and grease that person and cut this deal and cut that deal. You can't do that in a year or 2 or 3 or 4. So what happens is once you have term limits, it's sort of like, well, I got 2 terms. I'm not going to make a lot of money. So they go somewhere else. Now, wherever they go, I don't care what it is, at least they're not stealing from you and they're not stealing from me. And that's why I think term limits is, to me, a necessary reform. Final word to you, Janet.
I actually agree with you. I support term limits because I believe that that it will attract people who truly want to serve the American people. But my point is that I don't believe these types of decisions should be left to these people because they are so corrupt right now. The American people need to have a say at the ballot box on this. When they want to raise their pay one more time on our backs, we should have a say as to whether or not they get to do that. Because 12 years down the road, after J.D. Vance, what if we get a Democrat in office again, and which it will happen, and they get a mandate? What happens when they have a mandate and then they get rid of term limits? So I believe that as the employer, we should decide whether or not we want to keep, give these people more and more chances.
I agree.
To cheat.
I so agree, Janet. And that's why I think we need a constitutional amendment. I think that's the way you make it really rock hard permanent. And, and if the people want it, and I think they do, then I think it's time for us to mobilize and achieve it. Because you're right. We need term limits. And, think about it. It's like, the fox is guarding the hen house. All these corrupt politicians, we're going to depend on them to limit themselves. I mean, look, I'll tell you, when I was covering politics for the Washington Times for over a decade, common expression on Capitol Hill, politics is a license to print money. They go, hey, they laugh. They go, it's a license to print money. In other words, we can just steal and steal and steal, and who's going to stop us? So, Janet, I'm with you. We, the people, have to say enough and put it as a constitutional amendment. And down the stretch we come. 9:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Okay, Trump has now done the impossible. He not just has pulled off the greatest political comeback in American history, he not only has he flipped the Senate back into Republican hands, but they've actually now held the House of Representatives as well. So it broke late last night. The Republicans have finally hit that magic number, 218 votes in the House. So under Trump, when he is inaugurated, they will control the House, they will control the Senate, the White House, obviously, and the Supreme Court, every single branch of government. Trump now has a unique chance, a window, an opportunity, once in a generation, to turn this country around decisively. 617-266-6868. That's why, fingers crossed, let's get the right Senate Majority Leader in there. Tomorrow, all-important, closed-door, secret vote. 3 candidates to replace Mitch the Squish McConnell, turtleneck as I call him. It is John Thune, who's now believed to be the presumptive front runner. He is basically a McConnell clone. Rhino John Cornyn from Texas is apparently running in second place. And Trump conservative, MAGA conservative Rick Scott is now running third. Apparently, he's got the support of only 11 senators. You need 27 to win the Senate Republican leadership. So let's melt their phone lines. People have been calling all morning. This is the Capitol Hill switchboard. You can call or speak to any Republican senator you want. Go after them. I mean, politely, nicely, obviously, but let them know that the days of the swamp are over. The days of the rhinos and the globalists are over. Thune and Cornyn must not be allowed to win. We want Rick Scott. 202-224-3121 is the number. 202-224-3121. Sandy in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Sandy, and welcome. Hello, Sandy? Did we lose Sandy? Okay. Let's go to John in New Hampshire. John, thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Go ahead, John. The floor is yours.
I have a unique perspective. I'm a Republican, I'm also a supporter of the Trump administration. But I wanted to briefly touch on my perspective on the plans for mass deportations. I know quite a few immigrants and people who have come here in the last few years. And some of them, their stories are really unique. They came from horrible living experiences back home, particularly Latin America, for example. I am in total agreement with deporting the criminals and those people who are here, who are breaking the law and abusing the system, and who are terrorists, especially the known terrorists, the people that we've allowed in this country. But to me, we have a unique opportunity to allow some of these people to stay here and turn them into Republican voters. From my perspective, these people, they were encouraged to come here by the Democratic Party and Mayorkas, etc. So for me, my point is, let's not send all of these people home back to their terrible lives back wherever they came from. Some of them are here to work, to pay taxes, and for a better life. And for me, it would make sense to turn them into Republican voters. Because of right now, obviously, we know that they've been allowed into this country. They've received benefits. Not all of them. I know for a fact that not all of them are getting benefits. One person in particular, I know she's working. She's paying taxes, making $14 an hour. She has not received a free telephone, no payouts of any kind. She just wants to work and have a better life, escape the violence that she experienced back home. So, again, my point is, why not take
John, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Is she here legally or illegally?
She entered the country illegally.
So how is she able to work then? Does she have she must have a fake Social Security number, correct?
No, she has a real Social Security number because she's gone through the legal process of having her status changed. So she's here legally now, but her circumstance when she came here was, illegal entry. But she did go through the legal process of correcting that and having her status changed through the courts.
John, we're going to tackle that tomorrow. In fact, I was going to address that issue today because Tom Homan is talking about mass deportations. John, I would just ask you to think about this. If someone illegally broke into your home, now they may want to work, they may want to pay taxes. Should they have the right to stay in your home? I mean, to me, a squatter is a squatter is a squatter. I got to go. Bye-bye.